Meeting to order for the Board of Water and Wastewater Commissioners for Thursday, June 22nd, 2023 at the Harwich Water Department, 196 Chatham Road, Harwich, Mass. At 11:30. So just so everyone knows, we're going to have our regular public meeting now, and at the end of it we're going to go into executive session to go to Town Hall to discuss strategy with collective bargaining. So now I'm looking for, is there any public comments, announcements?
Yes, I have comments.
Yes.
I thought it was further down.
Well, on paper you are further down, but we're going a little out of order.
Okay, so you're taking me out of order?
Yes.
That's fine. I just gotta wake up. Okay. First of all, the drought is back. We wish it wasn't here. We appreciate all your wonderful efforts. But I'm gonna start with something that puts long-term perspective.
And I think I remember your name, sir, but...
I'm Tim Gallagher.
Yeah,
I
okay,
should
that's
have
right.
mentioned that.
And I saw your
And
correspondence. That's
so,
all.
what you have here is the long-term history of well water height that we, off of our aquifer. If you look on the, this comes from the Cape Cod Commission. Cape Cod Commission, though, talks about a well index, which doesn't communicate very much because it's the hot amount of air above the water in the well. Okay, this then translates that to how many feet of water we have in the ground that are above sea level. Difference is 36.1 feet. The top of the well is 36.1 feet at the ground level, and they show mine is like 10.6 or whatever. And this is the differences, and you'll see over time where we are now and where we've been, and it varies over the years quite a bit. A 3-foot difference in here, like the difference between the 3 years that are high out there at the right at the end and the 3 years that we're now currently in, that's a difference of about 11% of the water in the aquifer. And that, of course, if that were to go to zero, then salt water comes in and we got no drinking water on the Cape. Okay? That's what that says. I could never understand that well index, so I thought I'd show you what I did to translate this. And when you see it, as Alan has charts here, when you look at plotting well index, it looks like we have huge percentage differences in the water levels, but we don't have huge percentage. We have huge percentage differences in the air above the water.
And is this an average of all?
No, that's month by month plotted, every month since January of 1962.
But of all the average of the town of Brewster?
No, there's only one well that's monitored with history.
Oh, okay.
It's close to us, and that's the one in Brewster.
It's in Nickerson State Park.
It's
Nickerson?
at Nickerson.
Okay.
And
Thank
that
you.
place in Nickerson is 36 feet above sea level when you're standing on the ground.
That's the monitoring well that I often print the graphs out from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So, from a well height perspective, I don't think we're much better off now than we've been in the last couple of years.
No, we're not.
Well, I've shown the months coming out of the winter here is what I've plotted. But June is not, the reading's not been taken. That's the first part of this. Second part is how much rainfall we've had. We haven't had a dramatic increase in rainfall, so I don't know that, I mean, if you're gonna have a better summer, that's putting on your magic hat. It doesn't show yet in the data. Now, when I put down the inches of rainfall, understand from a lawn management point of view, the recommendation generally is you water once or twice a week, and you water deep so that you don't get shallow rooted things. You've heard that all over the time, right? And those recommendations say you're going to get a total of either 1 inch or 2 or 1.5 inches of water. Everything beyond that's waste. So when you look at a month that has 1.3 inches of water, total rainfall, clearly they're going to draw on your town supply if they want a green lawn. And that's expected, right? So those numbers show in the last couple of years we get almost nothing to help them with lawns. In the bottom here, I've looked back through the days that had significant amounts of rainfall that might help somebody's lawn. And that's been plotted since 21, 22, and we've had one this month. Again, I'm only showing June, July, August, and September, which is the summer months. So we don't get much help from rainfall. And we have people who, obviously, they just program their controller, and they don't care if it rains or not, just like last Saturday, which is the only time that I've had trouble getting over to Brewster on 124. It's the only time we've had heavy enough rain to block me for a while, right? I used to remember time after time plowing through the water on 124.
Yeah.
But we haven't been having those big dramatic rains. But that's what that says. Now, so these are my comments that I've started on already. And then I get down to the bottom of this, I just want to highlight what was in the email sent out earlier. Where I suggest that we no longer try to have our own language if we have to manage a drought, that we rely on all of that information provided by the state in terms of conveying the information regarding a drought. I'm not saying we impose restrictions according to the state and just follow them blindly. And in fact, I think at this time, I'm suggesting that you not impose a water ban for the 1 day a week. That's my recommendation. I just think it runs risk that we're going to pull the plug on this drought, get a lot of rain. But I do think that people should be encouraged to go to 1 day a week watering, and that you should help that get there by saying this area of town is going to water on Monday, and this area is going to water on Tuesday, and this is going to be Wednesday, and this is going to be Thursday. And then we'll see to the extent to which we get that voluntary compliance, which is important to draw this stuff down. Last summer, you got a lot of voluntary compliance, and we saved a lot of water. I know your pumpage went down in the months of July and August, and you did a great job, right? I'm going to ignore all that fines and penalties and all that aggravation, and I'm not encouraging you to get into it. I think that's just more work for these guys and more headaches for you, okay? So that's where I come down on that. I also think, though, that as a special point, I think we should very carefully this year define hand watering and follow the state guidelines. I saw people in my neighborhood set up 3 oscillating sprinklers on 3 hoses and run them endlessly whenever it was in the hand watering phase. That is not hand watering.
I know the house you mean too.
Okay.
I reported it because I looked up, I
But it doesn't matter. You could report it, but you let them do it.
No, they shut down afterwards.
Okay,
but I know
they
the
might
one
have
you
shut
mean.
down,
Yeah.
okay, but I saw a lot of it.
Yeah,
And
well, I
saw
live
other
near you,
people
I saw
who
it.
have the in-ground system, they're running oscillating sprinklers all over the place. Handheld by state guidelines is hold the hose in your hand or use a watering can. And I think this kind of language is unambiguous in what you should adopt. You shouldn't invent new language, because if you're going to agree with other towns, you just encourage those towns to go with the state guideline. And maybe sometime we'll have the Cape following similar guidelines for the same aquifer. That's my pitch, guys.
Well, thank you for all the work and all the information. Just so you know where we're at, and I don't know how much you followed along, but we have a packet from the state to hand out with our next water bill as far as consumption for irrigation.
I should have commented on that. I think that is a great thing. I looked at that.
But it's going to be property specific with how much usage they're using. We're trying to put a dollar amount on there too. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And how much water they could save, how much water they're using to their neighbor, like an electric bill.
Right.
Okay, that's one step we're taking. The next step we're taking is we're holding off on fines this year because, like you said, it's a waste of time for our department staff to do it. We're trying to educate.
Right.
We're sending out letters If we see people that are watering, we're gonna send out letters again to explain to them that there is a drought. Please adhere to our recommendations.
Right.
That's another thing we're trying to do.
I'm 100% in favor of that. I did look at that, I had one comment regarding the, that safe, happy lawn, happy
Healthy
summer,
summer.
or whatever you
Right.
call it. First of all, I think the generic version of this, that could go to everyone, is probably the right first step. I'm not, otherwise we're singling out people again, and we're sticking a needle into them. If it's education, you can educate them off this one page, and use that as a starter and get it out quick.
Yeah, well, I think that is the easiest first step, right? And I think what Gary was talking about with the comparison, like the electric bill.
All that other stuff.
I think that
Right.
would be a supplement, but we would target the comparative one to, our highest users, right? If you conserve
No,
water,
I understand that. That's the second step. I agree with that. But I just think this should get out quickly and could be the way that you stick this out as a communication device right now to inform people about the water emergency.
It's an Amber Alert, that's what it is.
Okay.
It's an Amber Alert, okay?
I don't,
Missing child,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't
Cheshire,
know.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, anyway, the other comment regarding this is that the number for this is understated, I believe. I have to work with people here, because they start talking about 1,900 gallons a week. I looked in our neighborhood, up in the headwaters area, our lots are just over 1/3 of an acre. The typical lawn in there is about 1/3 of that 1/3 of an acre. That is about 5,000 square feet. That's if they were growing just 1 inch a week. This would translate to 3,100 square feet, and our lawns are 5,000 square feet. So if you were to send out the general reminder, I might suggest that you talk about a 5,000 square foot lawn, which has the dimensions of 60 by 80 or 4,800 square, or something like that,
Yeah.
to translate this and make it more reasonable. Otherwise, you're understating the magnitude of the problem. I know our lawns are not the biggest in town by a long shot.
Right.
And just so you know, as far as reaching out to other towns, we've already had a discussion as far as if the town of Harwich is the only town who's putting in these restrictions, it's really not that effective.
Right.
We need a Cape-wide, or it should be a Monomoy lens-wide team or group, so we're all on the same page, and I think that would be more effective. But Dan is gonna talk on the drought and our agenda, but just so you know, the state's going to give us guidelines or steps to take. Each town is gonna be different. We're gonna reach out to those towns, see how they're gonna go about it, and hopefully get a consensus together, so we're all making an impact instead of 2 or 3 towns. So I just want you to be aware that those are steps we are taking.
Let me comment on that. I looked into what's available now. The Cape Cod Commission has an action group that has representatives from each town just dealing with this water situation. The Cape Cod Commission represents all the towns of the Cape. Each town has a representative. According to the website, currently it's Ed McManus that represents Harwich. That organization has not stepped up, okay, and taken the lead as they should. And if you can encourage that they be done, push them that way, I think then you got a chance, because you got an organization and they got paid help even.
Yeah, except that they're advisory. So
Well, I
and
I
then you
understand
get
now
into
they're
the
advisory, but
yeah.
but if they got a group that's supposed to act on this, then that
Yeah,
group should be
with the
tasked,
education,
and we should be
yeah.
asking them to do things.
Right.
Yeah. I
Okay.
agree.
Noreen,
You shouldn't have to keep inventing things yourself.
right, Noreen.
Tim, I just wanted for 1 second to acknowledge, I looked at your material, and I appreciate you highlighting the information about our signage, and I was actually going to at some point have us agenda that. It's about time we review all our signage in town.
Dan was nice enough to send me an email, and he told me that the signs are gonna get fixed anyway, so I think it has to be a topic for your, you can say that as a
Thank you,
meeting.
thank you, Tim and Dan.
And I didn't mention it today because I had a response.
Yeah, no, this is
All right.
great. Thank
Thank you for your
you.
time, Mr. Gallagher.
Thank you for your
Okay,
interest.
Great work.
All right, next up, the consent agenda for the minutes of June 8th, 2023.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second,
Any further discussion? All in favor?
aye.
No abatements. Old business is next, which is the superintendent's evaluation. I'm going to skip down to new business. 6 Lewis Way, which was previously denied. So you requested to come back before us again?
Is 7 Lewis?
I'm sorry, 7?
Actually, it's 7.
Seven.
Yeah, it's 7 Lewis Way,
Okay,
yeah. I did own 5 and 7
okay.
for many, many years.
So you wanted to come back before us?
I did. Unfortunately, I'm not here a full year. The property is only now used in the summer, and unfortunately, I have commitments on the West Coast. I'm a doctor, and I'm retired from my original career, but now I am drawn into allied health on the West Coast. So I couldn't meet with you folks. I think you had a meeting probably
August.
around August 25th or something like that, and unfortunately, I couldn't attend when this incident happened. So I scribbled quickly a little note that was provided by me for sort of understanding what the issue was when I received a bill from the water department indicating I owed $150 for a service charge. So I scribbled the note down quickly, I left it with the gals, whatever. Hopefully it got to you guys and read it. I would have appeared at the meeting on the 25th if I was in town and I could appear. I would have been in person. I think in person is a better way to go. Actually, a friend of mine, some of you might know, Clem Smith, he said, well, you know what, you should probably appear in person. And some of you might know Clem, but unfortunately, I couldn't appear at that meeting. So, for clarity reasons, it was interesting to me because I kept getting on my email that I was delinquent in my water usage bill. I've never been delinquent in any bill in this town on my water usage, ever. And my family's lived here for decades in Harwich. And so, I had property in Harwich. They didn't live here in Harwich, but they had property in Harwich. Never have I been delinquent on any bill. So that confused me initially, because I kept getting these emails, and I have my checks, which I have spent time with the town hall staff validating that they were received and cashed for water usage. At the time that I received that $150 service charge, what I did was I think I scribbled down a note, sent it off to you folks. There's a lot of complications regarding that service charge. Like I said, I spend most of the time on the West Coast these days with my wife and family. I come here for the summer for a very, very short time, unfortunately. I like to spend more time in Harwich. But when I received that, I was confused that it was such a charge. And so I try to indicate to you folks by that first little note that I wrote here in the office that when I came to the Cape, when I came to Massachusetts in June, driving from basically Brooks Road on Lower County down to Old Mill Point, Strandway. And I live in between. I live across from Green Needle Lane and Pinewood Lane, Beach Road, right in that area, right in that neighborhood. And so from basically Brooks Road to Strandway, to Old Mill Point, there were signs, postings from the water department, basically almost on every corner. Big placards, okay, that said, water maintenance, flushing, equipment being used, et cetera, et cetera. When I got to my property, I tried to turn on the water, and I had no water. So I could have called a friend, a plumber friend of mine, and said, come on over. However, I acted probably too, maybe logically, maybe if you want to say it that way. I didn't want to disrupt anything that the water department in the town of Harwich was doing. I don't live here full-time. I didn't know what you folks were doing in the town. I didn't know what the signs actually meant when you said maintenance or flushing, etc. in my neighborhood. I also pay for a serve-tight type of program that you guys offer, which I applaud. And I know that is important from the street to the property. I didn't know what was going on in the town. When I turned the valve on, I know how to turn the valve on in my basement. Trust me, I've been doing this for years, turning the water on and off, and I always turn the water off in my basement, in my properties, all my properties in Harwich, when I leave. I know how to turn the valve on.
Okay.
And I know a couple of the people at the water department who used to drive by, and they were very friendly, and so forth. And they helped me out in a couple of instances because it was a little bit tight at a couple of points. So I know how to turn the water valve on.
Okay.
And I didn't have any water. And that bothered me to the point of, well, what's the most prudent thing to do here? Should I just call someone who doesn't know, what's going on in the town, that actually is happening with the maintenance or whatever, all that stuff? Should I try to do it myself, or should I call the water department as an aid or the help to get assistance in basically getting water to my property? I chose the latter, unfortunately, I think, because of this service fee. So I called the water department. A fellow very courteously answered the phone, never informed me, by the way, that there was going to be any charge. And I had spoken with water personnel before many times that have driven past my properties on the road. Very cordial. I'm not going to mention any names, but hey, how are you doing? Is there anything, any problems, any assistance needed, whatever. Never a charge, never a fee. So I got off the phone with this fellow. He said, fine, I'll come over, Dr. Hammerstrom, and I will take a look at it. I said, okay, I don't know what's going on in the town. The maintenance, whatever is happening, I don't have any water in my property. He came over, he looked at it, we went into the basement, the valve was correctly turned on, and that was it. Now, there was another valve that he said, well, does this go to your irrigation or does this go to your property? And I said, well, I think one goes to one pipe goes to one thing, one pipe goes to another thing. I turned the nozzle, I turned the valve on, it's a simple wall valve, I turned it on, and he left. And I said, thank you very much. I think everything's okay, the boiler seems to be working, et cetera, et cetera. Hi, goodbye, and he left. I thought nothing more of it. I didn't think...
So you had water?
I did have water. I did have water at the time. It came out not so clear, but I did have water.
So at what point did you have water? When you or the tech?
I turned the valve on.
Okay.
On another pipe that he indicated that might be
pipe
not the
to go
issue
outside?
to the irrigation. Right. Because when I leave, I have people come over to my properties and turn the waters off on everything. Blow up my irrigation, control my water in the properties, etc. So no pipes will burst, hopefully. He left, and that was the end of it. He was there basically for 5 minutes in my house. And then I get a bill for water usage. Now, no one is in my property all winter. I'm on the West Coast,
Got it.
teaching
Got it.
Allied Medical
Yeah.
people. You got it, right?
Yes, got it.
Gary? Okay.
Yeah.
So no one's in my property at all. There's no water. So I'm paying a basic rate every quarter.
Yep.
45 plus 17 equals 62.
Mhm.
I'm paying checks to the town,
Mhm.
right? The town of Harwich, not to you folks, to the
No,
town of
it's-
Harwich.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're cashing my checks.
Yeah.
And I'm still getting an email saying I'm delinquent and in arrears on my water usage bill. It doesn't add up to me. I mean, I'm no mathematician, but I can add up that, and it doesn't add up. Because these checks are being cleared. I called my bank, the checks are being cashed. Come to find out by my talking to the town hall staff, well, we don't do it that way. What we do, the software is indicating the fact that we go back to the oldest account, oldest bill that is due, and we start deducting things from that. So my $62 that I'm paying for technically water usage is not being paid for water usage, it's being applied to a $150 service fee that I have appealed. All right? And I made an indication to you, I think I wrote another little note to you, a very, very short note saying that if that was the course that you wanted me to take, that I will appeal it. Because I didn't think it was necessary. I thought it was, for the better part of a word, I thought it was egregious that it was that high. The other factor is that when I went to the town hall, and we had a big discussion yesterday, as a matter of fact, at the town hall, with the tax collector person, she indicated to me that yes, indeed, there were two separate invoices. One invoice number applied to the service fee. The other invoice applied only to my water usage fee. Right? The invoice applying to my service fee,
Sorry.
that's okay. No problem, Noreen. I get messages all the time. The invoice applying to my water, the service fee, should have been isolated and kept in an appeal bracket. The invoice applying to my quarterly bill for water usage, I was paying quarterly, and I have the checks to prove it. I have never been in arrears on my May quarterly bill. I have two checks for $62, which were cashed by the town for that quarter. Two, not one, but two. Come to realize now that they took $62 off of the entire bill, adding $150 to 62 to make it $214. Needless to say, it's very confusing to me. So for clarity, I went up there and I spent some time, extra time yesterday, dealing with the staff at the town hall to try to figure this out. The issue that I have is, well, you know, Dr. Hammerstrom, you didn't file an appeal. You didn't file the appeal because we have no record of an appeal being filed. And that might be true, but it's not as simple as that. I'm a pretty busy guy. I do a lot of medical instruction and education out there on the West Coast currently. I gave it to a staff member because it had to be filed electronically. And if you ever looked at their website, mass.gov, and looked at the appeal process in their website, it's a convoluted website. Trust me on that. I've looked at it now. He probably sent it and filed it, but it didn't go to the right department. And you all know, if a thing doesn't go to the right department, it goes right into the trash can and no one reads it. I was assuming all of this time, because I notified you I filed an appeal, that they were currently undergoing and evaluating the appeal. And that when I came back to the Cape this summer, which I always do, that I would be granted the appeal, you would have the case number, you would have the documentation in front of you, and the decision I would abide by. I'm not here to argue about a decision. However, that assumption was completely apparently not correct. Because I didn't think that they were going to notify me with a case number and call me. They were going to call you folks, because they were handling the appeal. That never happened, so that added another layer of confusion to me as a resident of the town. And so it got to the point where it was taking a lot of my energy, effort, and time, quite frankly. And so I went up to the town hall yesterday. And this is the other corollary to this story, this saga. I called the town hall from the West Coast, and I said, what is my bill currently in the town of Harwich for water? And I was getting $88.
Okay? I'm sure that's what your water bill was, not counting the $150 charge.
No, that was in the deduction from the 240, from the 150. They were applying the $62 that I was paying supposedly for water usage from $150, getting $88.
Oh, so the balance was 80.
Right?
Yeah.
So that shouldn't have been happening. That should not have been happening, in my view. I was appealing the 150 on a separate invoice. The $62 charges should have been applied to the quarterly payment for my water usage. But that wasn't the way that they were working it, unbeknownst to me. So when I called the town hall and said, hey, did you cash these checks? I know a few people up there. And they said, yeah, we cashed those checks. Well, I said, how did you cash them? What did you apply them to? And then they explained to me in detail, and I'm not going to bore you with that. They explained to me in detail how they did it. And the software does not separate the appellate invoice from water usage invoices. So here I am stuck with a dilemma now. And so, I mean, look, I've been living here for decades. My family's been living here in decades for Harwich. I'm not new to the issues in the town. I get it. And I'm definitely never have been in arrears on any of my water usages on any of my properties. I think the charge of $150, and to add on to this whole layer, I finally got a notice from a gal out here, Miss Marsh. And not to be pedantic about this, but Miss Marsh is a wonderful person. She's very cordial. She does her job, I'm sure, very, very astutely for you folks. But she's very good at printing out spreadsheets. And she supplied me with a couple of spreadsheets. But the spreadsheets say nothing to me. That's all she does, is give me a spreadsheet. Apparently she's not in a position to make a judgment decision. I make many decisions daily. They happen to be, albeit in another sphere, medicine, as opposed to what you guys make decisions on. But my decisions are colored by circumstances. And I tell all my staff and junior colleagues, something can be written in black and white. But really, if you make a decision only on the black and white issue, when you're making a decision, usually it ends up either faulty or incomplete. You have to take and have the circumstances surrounding the incident applied to the decision. When I saw all those placards and all that material in my neighborhood from the town of Harwich Water Department, I didn't know if a main was ruptured. I didn't know if I touched anything in my basement, that I was going to get into a severe problem in my property. So I called the water department, looking for help.
So when you called the water department, they didn't give you a step-by-step scenario to go downstairs and check your valves?
They did
They didn't walk you through any type of, check this valve, check that, because that's our procedure.
Sir, they did not.
Our procedure is, someone calls, before we go out there, because there is a charge, we walk you through, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, we walk you through procedures before we go out. And I know what you're talking about when we had water department employees in your neighborhood and they stop by and check on it. So I know there's some work being done in the area.
Yes.
And they, who were doing the work, wanted to make sure they weren't disrupting water flow or if you had any issues, they wanted to resolve that as soon as possible. And that was a courtesy because we were out there working, so we wanted to make sure everything was straightened before we left.
Great, that's fine.
So when and I believe the signs say water main flushing. I don't believe it says construction, it doesn't say water main break, it said water main flushing.
That happens
So-
every year.
Water main, it said water main it said flushing, and I believe another sign said maintenance.
Which is maintenance. It's water main flushing maintenance. We flush our mains,
Okay.
and that's what it is.
All right, I'm not gonna debate that issue, I'm not a water person, I'm not
I
a,
gave you an opportunity, just let me finish.
go ahead,
All
yep,
right.
yep.
So the sign says water main flushing,
Right.
and that's basically what we're doing. So when you got to your property and you didn't have the water, you had no water, whatever the issue was, instead of calling a friend who's a plumber, whatever, you called the water department, which is a very valid thing. Again, our employees are supposed to walk you through procedure to make sure everything's working before we do come out, because there was a charge. And I believe it was either after hours or Sunday, and that's why it was $150 charge. From what I understand is the employee went out and he did open a valve that was closed. And that was what turned the water on. So the $150 was for the charge for our employee to go out there and resolve the issue you were having. You disagree with that $150 charge, and you filed an abatement, which the
Yep.
board denied. At that point, your opportunity is to appeal it. To this point, we still haven't received an appeal.
Right.
Understandable, for whatever reason, your colleague, your assistant may have sent it off to the wrong place or whatever, but we've already voted and taken a position. You coming here before us now, we can't vote on that again. At this point, it's out of our hands. It has to go through the appeals court, if I'm wrong on that.
That's my understanding.
Okay, I'm not
And I
gonna,
don't want to waste your time either. but
look, I'm
this-
not
these
gonna
are steps
pursue,
we're
look,
on.
Gary, I'm not gonna pursue that, I'm not gonna pursue that.
Okay,
And
I came here just,
I just want to add one
Excuse
thing
me.
too, you know,
yeah,
just for your edification, you know, when an employee goes out after hours, the reason we charge that $150 is because the employment contract grants that employee a 4-hour minimum callback. So there is a charge that the department incurs to have to pay that on-call staff. And that service charge for after hours is for the purpose of offsetting that cost.
okay, no, I get it, look, I'm not gonna argue anything like that. My point is, when you said, did they walk me through things? No, the answer is no. The answer is, I turned on the valve, not your technician.
okay.
You can take that with a grain of salt, whatever you want to do. I just simply asked for this board to review the data. That's all I simply asked.
Okay.
And to make a reevaluation. That was my request, and that's why I'm sitting here today. That's it. If you tell me now that you can't review it, it's a
Right.
done deal, your hands are tied, whatever, I'm not gonna go through the process. My staff member, I tried, whether he did it digitally or how he did it electronically, I'm not gonna try to contact him and go back a whole year now and try to figure out what exactly he did and trace that step. Obviously, there was no formal declaration issued by Boston, right?
Yeah, we
To
have.
begin with, Gary, I don't think it even should have escalated to Boston. I think this board should have made a decision.
We did.
You did.
We did.
I don't agree with the decision, but I'm not gonna argue that if you tell me now that you can't reevaluate that decision.
Right.
If that's your stance, that's your position, fine. But I just wanted to make it clear that it was very confusing for me to be being a resident for so long in this town, where one party's telling me one number, another party's telling me another number. The last time I got an email from the water department that said I just simply owed $62. I have it on my email. I'm sure she has a record of it. It's extremely confusing.
I will look into the way it is set up on a bill, because the 150 should be assigned
That's right.
as the
Under
charge
appeal.
or whatever it is. right?
Until that's
The
adjudicated.
the charges, as I understand, I mean, just hearing this all out,
Yeah.
trying to put it together, the
Yeah.
charges, for water use or for a service call or for anything get charged to the account, right? So when he's making payment to the town, they're applying that payment to his account, which is a sum of all prior.
Yeah, everything, right, Dan has it right, it's lumped together.
Okay.
Which was unbeknownst to me. Now, I was told initially that that was going to be a separate invoice. And the invoice number is a specific number, and I have that recorded if you want to hear it. The invoice for the 150 is separate. The invoice for the water usage is separate. So I have two separate invoices.
All right, Noreen.
Just to shed light on that particular aspect of
Yes.
the situation.
Yeah.
And I can't tell from this form because it's been redacted
Yeah,
quite a
yeah,
bit.
yeah.
But for the town's bills, for property tax and things like that,
Yes.
people are told that they must pay the full amount, even if they're requesting an abatement. And then if an abatement is granted, you know, that would be adjusted that way.
Uh-huh.
I mean, perhaps we should look at our forms and make that crystal clear. Because as I remember from being very young when I did medical billing, the effort of going back to the oldest charge was very, very common in the medical practice
That's right.
for many, many years.
That's right.
So the problem,
Right.
if we want our customers to pay the whole amount, so there's no, while it's in dispute, if we don't have a separate way, maybe we need to make that clearer, but that's, would be the reason why they did that. They always go back to the oldest because.
Right, my
yeah.
account number is 03227, whatever it
Right.
is in the town. All right, that's my account number.
Mhm.
But you're right, Noreen.
Yeah.
Medical issues were that. I'm an old doctor, I've been
That's
around
right.
for a long time, okay? I get it.
Yeah,
However, that's been modified
yeah,
since, right? Now, that being said, my account is still one account number.
Right.
However, to Dan's point, I have two separate invoices.
yeah.
And in my mind, the 150 was in limbo, let's put it that way, until adjudicated by the appropriate parties, whether it be you guys or some appellate board in Boston. The other invoice was for water usage,
Right,
and that I kept paying,
right.
and
Everyone gets billed throughout the year, even if you're not,
that's fine.
it's like the gas company.
That's,
it's
no,
still-
that's fine, I'm not disputing that, but it was just very, very awkward and convoluted how
Yeah.
I was calling and getting one issue, how much do I owe the town, how much do I not owe the town? One party was telling me it was such and such number, another email I was getting from the water department was saying another number. The last email I received from the town, from the water department, was only indicating I owed $62. Nothing was mentioned about the 150 or the 88 or anything else. I owed $62. That was it. And it was said I was delinquent in my May payment, quarterly payment. I went up to the town yesterday, I talked to the staff in the tax collector's office. I am not delinquent in that payment. That's my confusion. That's my issue. So if you can't review it, if you can't, I'm not here to argue, I'm not here to do anything like that. I've been living here a long time. I just wanted to make it clear, like in person, to see you folks in person, and to make sure that you understand what residents are feeling.
Well, thank you for that, appreciate it.
Because that is really a very, very convoluted process, in my opinion. You can, if you disagree with that, that's fine, whatever. However, when I get a bill, I always pay it. I've never been in arrears of any bill for the town of Harwich.
So you must have got a bill for $150.
I never did.
You never got a bill.
I got a water bill that said $150 on it.
So you did get billed.
It said $150 for a service fee.
Yeah.
That was, in my view, a separate invoice, and it was indicated on my bill as a separate invoice. The water usage bill was for $62 only. And I wrote to the town, when I sent the bill back to the town with my check, and I have receipts for that, I wrote on that bill that the $150 was an invoice and such number, and that was in appeal.
Did you send
And I
it
am
to
fully
town
paying,
hall?
I'm fully paying the $62 for my annual, my quarterly basic rate of 45 plus 17.
Did your note, sir, did you send that note to the accountant's office?
I sent it to the town with my
Not a
check.
copy here? Because it sounds like it's an accounting,
Yeah, well, I think
Yeah.
that ultimately this is all tax collector, treasurer collector's office.
And-
It's not
Right.
our, it's not anything that we're really involved in.
control.
Here are the bills that I received, and the 212
Is there one there?
is crossed off, and I wrote to the town, the note saying that the invoice of 457,065 is in appeal and not to be indicated on my bill. Here's the water usage for $62 that I'm paying for the quarter.
And
I sent it to
see
the town
that-
of Harwich.
Yeah, and my guess is that it,
They don't have the authority,
They don't-
they wouldn't have the ability to remove a charge in the tax office.
Right.
and that it didn't get acted on.
Wouldn't even see it through the building system.
Right.
But I'm not gonna
It's
go
just
into
an
all
unfortunate,
that.
I think
Yeah.
basically the sum and substance of this is it's just an unfortunate situation, but I never was expecting, really, when did the town or the water department implement the service fees?
We've always had service fees. Always
Ever
had service
since, ever since
I've been living here a long time.
unions came into being. I mean, there would have been a fee on the weekends, past years before union days. But once the union came in, it was a different ballgame.
Interesting, okay, I never, I
It's
have.
out of our hands.
I'm not gonna debate that, it's just the fact that I never received a notice,
Yeah.
ever, by mail, email,
Yeah.
anything, that there were fees attached to an emergency call when someone has no water in their property. And the circumstances surrounding that event that I've detailed. I never saw anything written down anywhere saying that there were fees attached to an emergency call such as I had. But it's plain and simple, that's it.
All right. Well, thank you for coming, I appreciate
Yep.
it.
And we appreciate the fact that you've been a wonderful customer for
Oh,
all
I
these
have, yeah.
many years.
I have. There's too many decades to
Yeah.
count, Noreen.
But,
And so to finish this whole story is, what I did was, I had the town tax collector give me documentation, and I wrote 2 separate checks yesterday.
Okay.
And I have, if you want copies of these, you can take copies of these.
That's fine.
Yeah, one was for $88, which apparently...
Balanced out the
Right,
150.
the $88 which was hanging out there, and one was for $62,
Which is your regular.
which,
Yeah.
right.
Which you had already
Which I
paid.
thought I had paid
Right.
twice. So now I have 0 balance going forward.
Okay.
And I think the next quarter is going to be in August,
September.
September. See, I'm not
I'm
gonna-
sorry, July. I think
Well, we're in
already
July,
got that.
we're almost in July. I thought
Yeah.
the next quarter was August. No?
No,
It doesn't
We're
go,
billing-
it doesn't go with the tax, the property tax.
it's a little, it's close.
It's a little askew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not going to be here in September again, right? So, it's going to be forwarded, all my mail gets forwarded to
Should
my
come in
house on the
July,
West
right?
Coast.
Yeah, no,
July.
I said
Come in July.
I said the wrong month. It'll be beginning of July when the next bills will go up.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
so
meters will be read the end of June.
then I will be here for July.
Yeah.
So I'll see the bill. Hopefully it's for $62. We won't have this discussion anymore.
Depends on how much you water the lawn.
We're not going to, I just heard this fellow. I got an education and a half from this young man back here.
Yeah?
But I will be here for that. So, but as of now, I'm cleared with the town, I'm cleared hopefully with you folks. But I just wanted to show up in person because I said that I
No,
would.
I appreciate it.
And I took the time to do this because I think it was important
Yeah.
to clarify this situation to you folks. Because
No, thank you, we'll figure.
any other resident, look, I'm definitely, I don't think alone. But having said that, you guys do a
Well,
great
no,
job.
this is good. I mean, I've been a commissioner for 5 years, and it's
Yeah.
the first time that, in my experience, that this has
An
happened.
issue arose?
But it sounds like, number one, an accounting issue, number two, a communication issue, and we appreciate you coming in,
Yeah.
and we'll figure it out.
Maybe there's something that can be done, I don't know. But like I said, the corollary is that I never received anything saying that there was going to be fees attached to anything on an emergency basis. I never got that. I never got that note.
All right.
Okay.
Are we good?
We'll
We
look
are
at that.
good.
We're good,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
You too.
Dan, the generator bid?
So I'm actually going to, not ask the board to approve at this point, for the reason we are right now looking at the physical size of the generators as compared to the size of the existing concrete pads where the conduits come up. The low bidder generator is pretty much right at the edge of the concrete pad, so we don't have the appropriate room to anchor it. So where we would have to modify the pad and add additional concrete, rebar, all that sort of stuff, there's a cost associated with that. So we're trying to evaluate the cost that we would have to do, for the things we'd have to do to fit the generator, because if that exceeds the difference in price of the two vendors, then the low bidder by actual cost would be the second one. So
Okay.
I'm still going through and evaluating all that.
All right. Drought update.
All right.
Can I just tell you, that phone call was John Goff. I just hit ignore because I didn't want to interrupt the gentleman. So I don't know if he knows about meetings after or whatever. I didn't speak to him.
All right.
Hold on here. All right. Let's take my way through the packet. So, as I think you're all aware, the Mass Drought Task Force declared a level 1 mild drought for the Cape Cod region on effective June 13th. As we've already kind of talked quite a bit about the drought or water status today, but I did want to include also depth to water level comparison from this year, last year versus the median, as well as kind of an expanded, I didn't go back to 62, but the past 5 years to kind of see where we were at. In the meeting that the Drought Task Force had, Mass Waterworks has a representative there. They did note that these are reflecting conditions since May. They didn't include a lot of the rainfall that we've had this month so far. They indicated that it was likely that they may pull out or withdraw the drought next month. So at this point in time, I would not recommend going into restrictions for the sole reason that we may be out of them in a couple weeks, and telling people to adjust and then unadjust, we can tend to lose people there. I did talk to Dennis and Brewster. They are both, at this point, still holding status quo.
Just a couple of quick things. I noticed in today's Chronicle that Chatham talked about mild drought things, and they said that they got a matrix or a table from their Water and Sewer Advisory Committee that they were going to use as a model for when they kick in their different levels. So I didn't know if that was something we could get our hands on,
Yeah.
Do you want this as a
I
reminder?
Yeah.
No, that's, but I mean, just so we might know what our neighbors are gonna do before they do it to help us out. The only other thing I was gonna say is that, I still feel nervous because it looks like we're down a little over a half a foot just since April. And that's with all this rain, because you did include it right up to the
Yeah.
date. And it looks like we were better off a year ago now than we are right this minute. So, I'm not suggesting, what
The
am I
blue
reading
line
wrong?
here, the blue line is last year. What I would just say is that these dates up here, the numbers up here,
Yeah,
if you notice the one that says April 11, 2023,
Yeah.
that is not reading where we're actually at, that's reading that data point. I believe it's that one.
okay,
So I can get, the blue line is last year ultimately.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we're in better shape, meaning there's, that's a good way to explain it.
Okay, so, I mean, last year we were, the way I read your charts, we were 30.65, I'm sorry.
That's this year.
That's, okay, last year we were 31.33.
Right,
And now we're 30.65.
right.
So to me, that says,
We're measuring depth to groundwater.
right,
Right, so the lower the number, the more
oh,
water.
that's right, yeah, okay.
It's tricky.
Well, I mean, I've got it written in giant bold all over the place. and
Lower is
I mean,
better,
read
Maureen,
that.
lower is
Lower is
better.
better, I mean, that's my mantra, but.
It's right there, lower is better.
I know it, but sometime off meeting, I would like to have a few minutes with you about how the median works and stuff like that, because I struggle with these.
Yeah.
So this must be how engineers look at this stuff, because it's not readily obvious to me.
Yeah.
When I get these, it's like this, so we'll have a private on that, so. I'm not recommending any drought restrictions right now either.
Well, one thing I will say, and I was gonna mention it under my superintendent's report, but it is somewhat related. I did get an email from DEP yesterday that they are gonna start moving forward with our Water Management Act permit renewal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I
Why?
noticed that, yeah.
I was shocked.
Well, did you hear the news that,
Yeah, I was also gonna mention
about the
that.
septics?
Yeah. But, yeah, so DEP reached out from when I originally submitted back in 2017. They're now ready to start working on it, so.
Oh, I remember, yes.
When did you originally send it in?
2017? Yeah,
Did they say sorry, we've just been
Sorry.
busy?
pretty
Well,
much,
rush into these things.
yeah. So, and that, and I'm almost looking forward to it because it's gonna
Couldn't do it.
clarify from a regulatory perspective,
Oh my goodness.
the drought and water restriction
Yeah.
thing, it'll be more defined, but,
All set with that, Dan?
yeah.
All right. Next up, superintendent's evaluation. All right. good. Thank you, Mr. Gallagher.
Hi, Mr. Gallagher.
Thank you.
Stay
All
well.
right. So we've all had the
My
opportunity
neighbor.
to do Dan's evaluation. One thing we need to do together is, which I still don't understand how we judge Dan on goals and objectives for next year, but it's worth 12 points, so. Dan, hot topics for
For,
next year, things you're looking at.
yeah. Yeah, so I put 7 items on, because I feel like they're all pretty big priorities that need to get done. So implementing, actions from last town meeting, repaving the Depot Street well field, and moving forward with the second contract for the new source exploration. Phase 3, obtain easements, complete final design, permitting, and then when I say permitting, that's local permitting, conservation department, planning, zoning, and then bidding. So it's my hope that we will have the project bid and a contractor on board by this time next year. Grinder pump procurement, develop a town resident agreement and procurement of grinder pumps for people that need them. Route 28 water main project, there's easements and permitting, final design for both phases, and I'd like to see the bid for the Lower County to Herring River section issued. We're on DOT's schedule for the other part, so I don't think that we'll have that by then. But now that, also, we were notified yesterday that the Title V watershed permit regulations are going to be adopted on July 7th. So hopefully that will enable me to work through the rest of the CWMP revisions process. So I'd like to get that and the effluent recharge site investigation further along. The Great Sand Lake sewer design, I need to do a RFP for designer selection, get the contract for that executed between the engineer and the Board of Selectmen, and get the actual collection system design for Great Sand Lakes underway. And then I also need to do a wireless communications lease RFP for the Route 39 tank. Those are the ones that are standing out as of today.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Are we as a body, or were you, Dan, or, I'm just anticipating with that news that arrived in my email from different organizations about the septic decision.
John's calling me now.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Hey, John. Good, we're in the meeting. I heard, yeah, you all right? Do you want me to call you back? All right, will do. Bye. Call back.
Just a communications question, like, just so people don't get anxious that they have to replace their septic.
I already have a phone call, return call to make, because
Okay.
people are already starting to call.
Is the Chronicle gonna do something maybe, or?
Yeah, well, I need to look, I actually need to read the final set of regs to understand exactly what is being promulgated. What I understand is that they have modified the application process for watershed permits so that we can kind of fold our CWMP into the watershed permit application. But when I talked to Gerard Martin from DEP yesterday, he said that the new regs did not modify the 20-year timeline. So there's still that.
Can we, I don't have it in my mail, can we
Yeah, I'm gonna-
eventually get a,
I-
yeah, no hurry.
I was gonna send it out
Yeah,
today and
gotcha.
have a draft opened up, but
Okay.
It's just conservation law, probably
So
should.
what the state is suggesting that in the next 20 years, this town will be completely sewer?
at least 50% of it, yeah.
I didn't get that 50 yet.
Yeah.
That should be interesting.
I see a beach ball going down the beach.
Well, I already hear the
Getting
bitching
picked.
about the millions already,
Yeah.
you know?
So, all right, I was gonna go into
No,
all right. So, that was great what you listed there. On my own evaluation, there were more similarities than dissimilarities in terms of picking which projects. A lot of them, I picked them to go in one year, and you picked them to go in another year, and so be it. But, again, we say this all the time, and this year,
We need
we're
to.
gonna do it, Gary. But I mean, this section, for instance, number 10, on goals and objectives, how can you have an evaluation where you're saying, okay, we're giving this person a goal and it's not possible? You know, so we're only
Yeah.
gonna give them a 1. Or if he has time, we're only gonna give him, it just makes, my brain can't
You
take
know
it
what?
in.
It's been like 50 years.
I know.
Weren't
and-
we
you
gonna
know,
change
and-
it?
Yeah, we were supposed to work on it last
Yeah,
year.
we're gonna-
and we
We've
didn't.
we've hashed that out before,
I know, I just,
you know?
All right.
I get it.
yeah,
You
okay,
put something in there, make it looks good,
yeah,
let's go.
all right.
We need to work on that this
Yeah, I
year. It
know,
needs-
we
it
will
needs to be fixed.
definitely do
We
that.
didn't get any money.
So essentially, I'm saying that I think Dan did an unbelievable job in a year, that he was called on to do a lot more with town hall, and that's not ending. As a matter of fact, on my charts, I even noted that some of the projects were added by the Board of Selectmen, you know, that they were not part of the original plan, to give some acknowledgement, although mostly it will go in a file folder, you know, of,
But Dan works for us, so we don't have any say over any of this, huh?
As far as what?
And, this workload for sewer and all that.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, of course we do, yeah.
We're gonna
Yeah.
start fighting
We can
back.
tell the selectmen that we're not doing that.
Yeah,
We
Yeah.
got our own stuff.
yeah.
As far as what? Tell them not doing what?
Well,
Waste, some wastewater.
and can I say, I mean, per the charter, it says that Dan has to work cooperatively with town hall. So if he's being given what some would deem a reasonable request, then I don't think we would be, right to say no. But if he gets 10 requests, that not even really vaguely connected to the department, then I think we do
Absolutely.
have a right to object at least to what,
Okay.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
So an assistant sewer, is that in the works?
Yeah,
Okay.
still waiting for
Job description.
permission to advertise, but
From who?
administration.
Why do they have, I mean, isn't that something that's under our purview?
No, just Dan.
We're running a few minutes late.
We supervise Dan, not the,
Not the,
Employees, we have no
Say,
authority to control the
probably
employees.
heading up in another 10 minutes or so.
okay.
So what happens next with this?
And,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and that's why we're going to town hall?
Yes,
I see.
we do our evaluations, Dan does his evaluation.
Right.
Sandy's gonna take all 5 evaluations, group them together. The only thing that's gonna stay consistent is the goals that Dan has laid out for 2024.
Okay,
So we need to fill this out?
so if my goals are
Yes.
slightly different, I'll just knock a
It'll-
couple out.
It'll
When
be
do we-
majority,
when do we
because we
send
can't
out?
send them
Yeah,
in 20 different
right.
directions.
Yeah, okay.
When do we,
The sooner the better, so we can we'll send it up to
Alright.
Town Hall. Because Dan's date is July 1st.
all right, so I'll get that done.
Yes, please have those back.
See, that's how I learned to write
As soon
on
as
the
possible.
form.
Dan, do you have the step?
I'm at step 10, so there's,
Right. You're M8,
you are.
step 10, right? And we're recommending, what, M9? I wish this went higher. Is there an M10?
No, that's it.
That's the
Yeah.
first
the
thing we...
contract, yeah.
That's the first thing we need. But I mean, it wouldn't make sense, we talked about this before, if we were successful in our recommendation to go to step 7, because it's almost not worth the trouble, it would seem like it would have to be M9, step 8.
Dan's at an M8-10, right? Is that where we're at? M8-10? Okay, that's one, why does it say 141 there? It says 130.
because that's next year,
This is next
fiscal
year's,
year's.
here you go, here's last year's, all
All
right,
right.
you happy?
What
Oh, I'm happy
page?
now, yeah, I got the
Yeah.
right number. Okay.
Yeah, so I think we need to recommend step 8, M9.
And
Great.
does that still put you under our purview, or does
Yeah,
that put
no.
you?
No,
as-
no. He's on-
It doesn't
He's
change.
ours.
So you're saying M9, step 8?
Right, because I'm saying the difference between step 7 and his current salary is so minuscule that it's almost not worth the, or maybe it is, I mean, I don't know. Next, as of July, I don't want to say it out loud, he would be getting,
It's public record, I mean.
well, I know, but he would be getting 141 and change.
Yeah.
Step 7 of M9 is only 143. Step 8 is 147.
Okay.
So
But that's, that would be M8 and
M9,
M9.
So there is
step
an
That's-
amendment.
That's step 10. Oh. So step 9
Step 9?
is where,
well, that's
Oh.
what he will be July 1st, at 10 on 8.
10 on 8.
I went too far ahead.
And if he goes to M9,
Yeah.
then he falls under the town.
No,
He never falls
no,
under
no,
the
no.
He never falls
No, it's
under
just
the
a job, it's just a rate classification.
so we're gonna go M8, 10. No, that's where he is.
That's where he is.
That's where he
I'm
is.
suggesting he goes to M97 or M98, I can't remember
Eight.
which one. 8, thank you.
All right, and
Grade M9, step 8.
Right. That's the
That's the
147, right?
That's the recommendation.
okay, M98.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't hear Dan
I'm not
asking for anything, so.
objecting.
M9, step
And
8.
keep in mind, regardless of what we vote here, it goes to the Board of Selectmen, and they have the right to approve or deny,
Right,
which was
correct.
denied last year.
Yeah,
Okay.
But we'll be part of a conversation, right?
We will request to be
Okay.
part of the conversation.
All right. Okay.
And you're absolutely 100% certain that this does not change his,
Yeah, it would require a charter change.
Dan is not a contract
Okay.
employee.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
He's ours.
We looked at that, it didn't benefit us or him, so.
Yeah.
good.
So, is there a motion
To,
to increase Dan from an M810 to an M98?
So moved.
second.
Is there any further discussion? The only thing I'm gonna request is when we put this vote forward to the Board of Selectmen, I will request a joint meeting with them during their evaluation of Dan's step increase, to have a conversation before their vote.
Yeah,
Any further discussion?
Yeah, when is his contract? What would be the timing on that?
July 1st, July 1st, July 1st.
Yeah, I mean,
But it could be.
there is no contract,
Right.
meaning if this takes.
Oh, that's right, you don't
Yeah,
have a
it-
separate contract.
Right.
So the timing on this would be, what, August, September,
Well,
So it
July?
would be
July
July
1st.
1 is
Right.
my anniversary, but if we lapse, it would be retro back to,
Right. All I want to know is when the meeting would be approximately.
oh,
Just whenever it gets scheduled, because
Yeah.
if it gets approved, it's retro, the pay is retro.
the
I
meeting
know
with the
that.
board,
Yeah,
selectmen?
yeah,
Yeah, well, I think we gotta figure that out.
okay.
Yeah. Are you away?
No, I like to know stuff, yeah, no, that's all.
You will know as soon as I know.
Okay, all right, I'll live with that.
I mean, that's,
I was gonna live vicariously through you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what their summer schedule is, so it'll be a
Yeah.
request. So, all in favor?
Aye.
all right,
All right. All right, superintendent's report.
Just two things real quick. Well 7, the new pump and motor and everything is installed. We chlorinated it and should be bringing that back online in the next couple days. And also the generator for Station 7 that was for the insurance claim arrived today, so finally making moves over there. And then, I think I mentioned at the last meeting, the boring for the effluent recharge site adjacent to Route 6. They're gonna be looking to do that tentatively next Thursday, so we did get DOT approval and the drillers lined up for next week.
Nice. That's it?
That's it.
Commissioners report. Commissioners report? Nope. I have Noreen.
Just real quick, you should see the bridge on Azalea.
Oh,
They're pounding in those things that are so gigantic,
The
you
sheeting
wouldn't believe.
piles? Yeah.
Those huge, like 400-foot tall things into the ground. Amazing. I
Yeah.
can't believe it for a little bridge like that. That's it.
All right. I have nothing. So I'm going to take a motion to go into executive session. The executive session pursuant to GLC 30A, Section 21A and 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if any open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Harwich Employee Association, HEA. Take a motion to go into executive session,
come on,
and I'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Thompson,
all right.
Ms. Underwood,
Aye.
Ms. Donahue,
Aye, and I seconded Alan's motion as well.
thank you, and it's an aye for myself. We are going to recess now and go up to Town Hall